This playoffs, I feel like, is the year of the goaltender. Whether you watched that Colorado game last night where it didn't look like either guy could make a save, or we go to that first round Boston game, Razor, where Swayman's lights out, Samsonov was, I don't know what you want to call his performance. And now you've got a million questions around that series in particular. Who starts for either team in game 2? Like, I'm going to put you on the hot seat right on the get-go here.
Okay, so, well, if it's me, Liz, I'm going over to the skate here in about 10 minutes. So, but if it's me, and this is going off no knowledge inside at all, I'm going back with both goalies. Bruins, the rotation is, you can play both goalies. You don't need a strict rotation. Swayman was unbelievable. Try and get a 2-0 lead. You just don't roll it. Like, you don't try things out in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I like this idea that, give it a try for 4 games. Let's see how that's what drives me nuts the most because that's what I hear the most as well. Just give it a try. Well, no, you go up 2-0. 1-1 is different than 2-0 on home ice.
But what happens if they win again? And then I just think back to last year's playoffs where Ullmark looked really good for 4 straight games, 3, not 4, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, like we can't even think about Swayman. And then all of a sudden, the clock
didn't he get hurt 12, in game 5 though? Didn't he tweak something in game 5?
And the carriage turned into a pumpkin and there were problems on Causeway Street.
Yeah, again, we could go over a bunch of different ways, but okay. So last year they didn't take Ullmark out, right? To your point, they were up 3-1 going home for game 5. Like, I think the Bruins would take that right now and just use Swayman for the next 4 games, and that you have the opportunity to come 3-1 home. Brad Marchand has a breakaway in the last second. They had a power play in game 5. They hit a knob in game 7. They had a lead in game 6 in the last 10 minutes. They had a lead in games. Like, it wasn't because they didn't rotate goaltenders that they lost that series last season. Somehow that's the storyline. Again, I think, and listen, they're going to lose a game. Last year they lost game 2, so maybe this year they lose game 2 and they switch and put Ullmark in game 3. I'm not sure, but again, I find it so hard when your goalie makes 35 of 36 on home ice in game 1 to not go back to him the next game. It's just, it doesn't work in my head.
Oh, so you're saying start Swayman tonight?
Oh yeah, I would 1,000,000%.
I thought originally you said to flip flop.
No, I'm not flip flopping at all. I'm not a rotate guy at all. I'm not a strict rotate.
So
Colby's trying to talk me into being a rotate guy. I'm not being a rotate guy. I listen, believe me, Colby, I've defended this last season 1,000,000 times, so I have all the talking points. Trust me, I know every single save that was made last year, every goal. I have it in my head, and I have the talking point ready to go why it didn't matter.
Let me just ask you this question from just a physical standpoint. When you're trained all season to go back and forth, and your body is used to 1 game on, then a couple of days of practice, and then another game because you have that, partner jumps in, so you basically play every 4 days. It's almost like a starting pitcher. Do you think there's any muscle memory or fatigue? And then you add on top the playoff pressure. And do you think that's a real thing because of how these guys are during the regular season? It's not like it was when you were playing, where one guy just played all the time. Like, not to age you, but that was 6 years ago. That's how it still was.
So this is the answer when I get asked this. So I would go and I would challenge you to go and ask Jeremy Swayman and or Linus Ullmark or any other goalie or player in the National Hockey League and ask them if they could play 7 games in a row and if they would like to do that physically.
Yeah, well, we know what the answer is going to be, right?
So these guys are machines, right? I played every game. I didn't drink protein shakes. I had a couple beers after the game. I ate like shit. These guys are actual athletes and actual machines. They can play every game. He can do it every single game. And the whole idea of every other game in the regular season is to be rested for the playoffs. So they have lots of energy and they don't get worn down, right? The Hellebuck plays every game and they say, well, you should get some rest because he's got to get ready for the playoffs. Well, these guys are well rested because they've been going to every other game. So the cadence and the fact that you have 2 good goalies it creates a bit of a problem because you feel like both of them can win. And that's probably the case. I think Ullmark would have played the same way as Swayman did last game because the Bruins played so well in front of him. 36 shots, but no odd man rushes, no 2-on-1s. It was stuff that was in zone. I think Ullmark would have made saves as well. So, that's the kind of the dilemma that they have. But again, I would go back to a winner. They're not going to sweep the Leafs. Leafs were horrible. They're going to play much better. They're going to win a couple of these games. And I think you have an opportunity to go back to a different goalie at some other point.
Razor, I'm just curious on, and I don't know if you feel it fully, but the pulse of the fan base and what they think about the situation. Obviously, getting a goalie's perspective is a little bit different than your typical fan. I feel like what I've seen as far as the discourse goes, they would agree with you in starting Swayman because of how good he was. But as soon as if Boston loses tonight, shit goes nuts, right? So have you heard from the pulse of the fan base, what they would think?
Yeah, I did a radio show yesterday morning and they had a poll up and it was actually closer than what you think. It was like 55, 45, whatever, a couple hundred votes. I don't know how many votes are. It might have been 2 or might have been 2,000. I'm not sure, but I think it's pretty
your
split.
vote. Just your vote.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's pretty split and you're right. There's going to be that second guessing, but we know that doesn't really filter back to the room. It really doesn't. I think the other thing with the fan base, and this was my question, to the fans too, do they, I feel at some point they just want a rotation to see a rotation. What would you I asked the question. I'm not sure. I really don't know the answer to this. And I don't think it would be 100% that they would rather. Would you take Jeremy Swayman playing 4 straight games and winning all 4 games and sweeping the series, or would you rather see a rotation? And I think some people want to see a rotation just to see the rotation and would rather the series. That's where I kind of think we're at with this, the talk and the everybody's kind of said they want a rotation. They're going to lean into that rotation all the way. Or people like me who say don't do it, they're not moving off of it either.
Well, do you think that's partially because of what happened last year when they didn't do the rotation and then they did the rotation and that's what got them here?
Said,
and that's what got them
here.
I
should have done this, Monty. That's the thing. People latch on. One thing that fans should realize is that GMs and coaches lie. When they stand at the podium, they're not always being honest with you all. I promise you. I've been on the inside when the PR guy comes into the room and says, okay, guys, I don't really care how you say it, but this is the message, right? So sometimes what they're telling us all publicly is bullshit. Just to let people know that.
I said the exact same thing yesterday morning, and I've been saying it. Monty's great. He's unbelievably honest through the regular season. He's very candid. He's very smart with his answers. He's very forthcoming a lot of times. And always and has been. You ask him about a player and he's like, well, these guys, he needs to do this, needs to do that, he needs to, whatever it is. That isn't happening now. As of Tuesday night, when that season ended against the Ottawa Senators, that goes out the window, especially when you're playing Toronto, guys. If it was Tampa, maybe you get him, catch him a little off guard just because he's not really thinking about the media. It's not a focus because it's Tampa and whatever. This is the playing the Maple Leafs is the biggest focus is the media, and that's the distractions that it causes and that the complications that are there. So you're saying even if at some, a different team, Florida, Tampa, you would say a little bit more, you're so much more guarded because it's Tampa or Toronto and it's going to go everywhere. So absolutely. I'm contemplating Swayman, which when he said that yesterday, he said contemplating Swayman. I'm like, oh, he's going to Ullmark. He's definitely going to Ullmark. But then he continued the answer and said, but we'd love this. If Ullmark gets in there, it's okay. Oh, he's going to Swayman. Whatever he says, it's probably the exact opposite and certainly far from the truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. So Swayman, hold on. He doesn't have a lot of time here, and I want to buzz him about a couple of these other goaltending series, Johnny. So the word from Andrew Raycroft, who watches the Bruins year in and year out, played, for both of these teams, you're going Swayman and you're going Samsonov again for this series. What about a couple other series that I want to ask you about? I want to know about the Carolina Islanders series. I don't think Varlamov played poorly. I thought he played pretty well in game 1, but you've got Ilya Sorokin sitting on the bench. What does Patrick Waugh, of all people, okay, go and do here, you think, in game 2? Or what would you do if you were Patrick Waugh?
So this is exactly the same scenario as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I would go back with Varlamov. And the reason for that is you're on the road. The series isn't over if you lose both games on the road. You're not done in any way whatsoever. It's a difficult start. The guy's already played there. And if he goes out and wins, unbelievable. Now you're set up perfectly. You got a split, and you still have the Vezina guy. You still have a guy you really believe in on the bench. If he loses, Sorokin, Joe Woll get to come in and be the hero in game 3. And it's nothing but positive. Now, conversely, if you make the switch, and I think you make a switch too early in these series, coaches can do that. I think it's too early because if you put Sorokin in, you put Joe Woll in, and you lose again, who do you go to game 3? Mm-hmm. Now you don't have any goalies. And I think there's just not enough pressure on winning one of these games at home or on the road. You can afford to lose 2 on the road and feel like you're still in the series. So I go back to Varlamov. I go back to Samsonov for those reasons. You can have the hero come in at home in game 3. Typically, those teams win that game back home, and then you get on a roll.
The Islanders are different too, I feel like, because they had a chance to win that game in the third period. Like, they get a really good scoring chance from Noah Dobson. Freddie Anderson makes a crazy save, and credit to Anderson, but Dobson's got to elevate that puck a little bit more, right? He had Anderson like on his back. I mean, we're giving Anderson a lot of credit for that one. Noah Dobson's a pretty elite player. He's got to go under the bar with that one.
Couldn't he have moved it over too? Was it Nelson that was that the same play where Nelson's just off to the side of the net? If he kind of slides it to him, he's wide open too, or was that later in the period? There's one play where
that was later.
The wraparound one. What was
that was later. This one was like a rebound. Dobson like had the whole entire top of the net and just couldn't get it.
But I'll just remind you that it always looks really easy from the TV cameras and from the press box and the studio, and you're.
But Toronto, we're saying. Toronto's down 3-4 goals in the third. The Islanders in a 1-1 hockey game with a chance.
But that's how the Islanders are. I mean, listen, the Islanders struggle to.
Got it. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm giving Freddie Anderson all the credit there. That's not that easy with a stick in your lane to get that off. And then Dobson has the wherewithal to keep going forward, gets good wood on it. I don't know why you're discrediting Anderson.
You're just saying that because Dobson's your boy. Dobson's your boy, and you're just defending him on here. That's what's
defending him. I mean, listen, but that's the Islanders. The Islanders can't score. Like, they're in games, but they can never finish because they don't have that guy to go make that play in a third period, and they don't have constant pressure. They get those one and done opportunities, but who does get constant pressure against Carolina?
No. I don't think Varlamov is even a question for this game, though, just because of how well the Islanders did play defensively. They just couldn't.
Yeah, like listen, I want to ask the guy who's been in that position. You know what I mean? That's who I'm curious about. What about? Did you have an opportunity to watch that Winnipeg Colorado game yesterday?
Yeah, I have PTSD still from it. Barely slept watching that. That was grotesque.
Colorado has a real problem here, and they're a good team, but they take a lot of chances, and I don't think Bednar can change the way that they play right now. It's you got to go all in with the way that you play, but like they're in trouble with they need a save at some point, right? Look, Hellebuck, you know what you're going to get from him. Like, he lets up a couple of soft goals, but you don't worry about Hellebuck. You worry about the other guy.
Does Colorado even have a chance?
They should, but the problem is they open it up, and that's more of the problem than the actual goaltending. Like, they open it up, and they scored 6. That's great, but they opened the floodgates to do it, and they took penalties because they're opening the floodgates. They're always reaching. They're always behind the play. They're always and against Winnipeg, they'll just stay patient. I don't know what they do in goal, though, because I was thinking at 7-4 last night, I was thinking, you know what, I'd put the young kid in, give him 10 minutes to feel it.
He was ill, Razor. They had their third string goalie backing up because their backup goalie.
I didn't even have the volume on, so I missed.
Their backup goalie. I agree with you, though. You could have gotten him a little bit of time in that crazy atmosphere. That's a small building. The seats are pitched. So
Yeah.
everybody feels like they're
Different
leaning
feel.
on you. It's like a smaller version of Montreal where it feels like everyone's on top of you because the pitch of the seats. But they couldn't even get him in to give him a little bit of experience. I was kind of thinking the same thing, but they had a guy who, is their third string goalie.
Yeah, you're not doing that. You can't do that. So there you go. So they've got, I guess, you know what? You probably go back to him, similar to the same
Yeah.
situation. The guys on the road, the Samsonov, the Wall, it's a debate, the Varlamov debate. You give him another rip. He's your all-star. He's 40 wins the last 2 seasons, 38 and 40 last year. But it's a short leash, and you get the other guy, it's a real short leash in game 2. He starts. If he doesn't figure it out, you go to the other kid to get him some experience, and then you got to go to him for game 3.
But if you're Colorado, how can you feel any sort of confidence right now?
Well, you scored 6, so you find, and
you have that every game,
and you have the 2 best players on the ice. So, and you're still you're still on the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't think they're losing a game at home. So they've already banked 3 wins. That's what Colorado's thinking. They're thinking that's what they're saying this morning. They're waking up saying that kind of sucked, but we only need one of these games here in Winnipeg.
All right, Rachel, let me ask you this before we let you go. Out of these 3 situations, the Islanders, Colorado, and Boston, which one would surprise you, I guess, the most with a goaltending change?
Islanders. Yeah, because this Bruins thing, it could go either way. I don't know what they're up to. I'm curious to see what it looks like here in an hour and a half.
I feel like they're going Ullmark. I really think
that's why I don't feel it like a million, like enough to like say it here. Because again, I would still play Swayman, and
we won't clip it. Don't worry.
No, I know.
We
I
will.
know. The context on these Twitter clips is going to be incredible. I can't wait.
Yeah. Andrew Raycroft says.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. It drives me. Yeah.
Send it right to Sweens.
But no, I do have a little bit of feel somewhere in me that they are going to flip because of last season, and they're in a spot where they possibly could do it. And if they do it now, then no one can say anything again. It kind of goes away if they rotate. Like that's the other side of it, right?
Yeah.
If they put Ullmark in,
at least we tried
even
it.
if he loses, all right, we're not doing this anymore. This is why we're not doing it. Don't ask me anymore.
Then you go to Swayman and you just ride Swayman.
You just ride whoever wins. Win, you stay in.
It's also funny because I feel like sometimes coaches in the playoffs, when they don't announce who their starting goaltender is, it's usually to like fuck with the other team, but this is just fucking with the whole Bruins fan base.
No, that's exactly what it is.
It's like
they don't care what the Leafs
does it
think.
matter? What does it matter to the Leafs?
It matters nothing to the Leafs.
2 Vezina candidates in the last 24 months who are both playing good hockey right now. Like, what's it? Pick
makes no difference.
And they've already prepared for both. It's not like actually they've already done the extra 20 minutes of video on Ullmark, so they know exactly. So yeah, you're right. It's just to have all of us guessing.
We've got so many teams in the playoffs this year that are a little unsure about their goaltending. Even Vegas is probably a little unsure about Adin Hill at the moment. And then you've got the Bruins who just have this embarrassment of riches, and that creates a whole nother problem. We just like problems. It's just that's what we like in the media.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like there might not even be problems in these places, but we have certainly sniffed them out, the opportunities for us to talk about, right? Like there might not be an issue in any of these places, and they might be playing Georgiev no matter what, even if he gives up 1 million goals, but we've sniffed it out. So it's fun to talk about, but you're right. Basically, you have essentially, what do we got? You've got one series, Florida 2. So Nashville and Vancouver, and then the Florida teams are the only real series that I feel 1,000,000% confident we're only going to see 2 goalies.
Yeah.
The rest of them we could see somewhere else, and we're going to see changes.
I'd say Rangers Caps fall in that category too.
I could see Kemper coming in.
So could I. Yeah. They're going to have to change it up.
Lindgren gives up 6 again, or we see him go in late in the game and then he plays great. Like I could see that switch up because
they're gonna when they're down 3-0 to the Rangers, they're gonna have to do something for Game 4, even if it's not Lindgren's fault. They're gonna have to do something.
And the guy won a cup.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
All right, Razor. Look, we're at some point, since we think the Bruins are going to walk this series and they'll move into round 2. We're going to bother you to come back on to keep this conversation going. But no, you got to get to pregame skates. So we appreciate it. We'll keep an eye on your Twitter if there's any updates coming on Twitter as to who's in the starters net. Are they at Warrior today or are they at TD?
No, they're at Warrior. It's going to take a refined palate to see and sniff it out today. As we know, both goalies are going to get on at the same time. Both goalies are going to go to the same net they have all year. Both goalies are going to get off at the same time. So I've got my thinking cap on right now, and I'm going to really dive in.
Your Coho thinking cap.
But you won't hear from me on Twitter. I'll tell you that. I'm not putting my neck on the line.
We'll just Photoshop a text from you and post it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No one's texting anybody at this point in the year.
All right. Thanks, Razor. We appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.